Hi, I'm Eric Voss, and one of our favorite shows here at New Rockstars is Rick and Morty on Adult Swim. Now, for my money, it's the best and most thoroughly crafted comedy on TV, with interesting storytelling, well-earned emotional payoff, and layers of jokes, all from the imaginative minds of Justin Roiland and Dan Harmon. Now, I've been dying to make a video about Rick and Morty, and ever since April 1st, when they streamed the Season 3 premiere over and over again, kind of as an April Fool's Day prank, and many of you were able to watch it, I thought that I would do a quick breakdown of all the cool details that you might have missed. And a quick spoiler warning, because I'm about to talk about all the stuff in the episode just in case you haven't watched it yet. Alright, wubba-lubba-dub-dub, let's do it! Okay, so Season 3 begins in this Shoney's restaurant, with Rick celebrating his escape from prison after he turned himself into the Galactic Federation at the end of Season 2. Now, this episode is called the Rickshank Rickdemption, which is a reference to the Shawshank Redemption, which is also a story about a daring prison escape. And although this opening scene makes it seem like we'll never see that escape, this episode totally delivers on it by the end. And Rick uses this totally bizarre image of Jerry stripping down and folding his body to prove that this Shoney's is just a mental projection created by the Gromflamites using the Brainalyzer. And I like how Jerry can only fold himself 6 times, referencing the myth that you can only fold a piece of paper in half 7 times, even though apparently Mythbusters proved that untrue. And in case you didn't notice, the interrogator Gromflamite is voiced by Nathan Fillion. He's like an awesome character actor. He previously worked with Dan Harmon in an episode of Community in Season 5. We also see the return of the upward-facing butt, which is really just the standard running fart joke of this whole series. I think Rick got this from the butt world dimension, which actually shows up later in this episode. Okay, moving on back to the house, we see what life is like for the Smith family now that Earth is under the Galactic Federation. Notice how all the art on the walls has been replaced with portraits of Gromflamites and Federation-related imagery, and they're force-fed pills by this robot butler named Conroy, which could be a reference to Kevin Conroy, who voiced Batman in Batman the Animated Series. And back at Shoney's, we learn what the Federation is after: Rick's memory of inventing interdimensional travel. So Rick's portal gun is really the main invention that gives him an edge in this wide multiverse. It allows him to move freely across dimensions and assemble with other versions of himself, exponentially growing his intelligence and power. It pretty much makes him a god, and it's why the Federation wants it so desperately. And as the interrogator explains that Rick's mind is collapsing, he points to 2 other key memories.
Someone special you remember? Is that your memory of her out there, between where you were on 9/11 and your favorite sports blooper?
And if you're watching, those 2 other memories play out in the background. The baseball bounces off one player's nuts and into a glove of another player, and then later in the scene you can hear Rick's reaction while watching TV on 9/11.
Fine, but I'm driving.
Then, back in the garage, Summer insanely speculates that rearranging the dead flies will open up Rick's secret lab, but of course that's exactly what Rick does later. And while trying to use dramatic overkill, Morty reminds Summer of the corpses of himself and Rick buried in the backyard. Because remember, this wasn't Morty's original reality. It's one where he and Rick died, and they filled in their roles back in the first season in Rick Potion number 9. And then Summer realizes that dead Rick would have his own portal gun. So as usual, Summer is a bit smarter than she's given credit for. And here, Morty says one of my favorite lines this episode.
Nobody has to know about that. We can put it right back and pretend we never saw it, like we did with Dad's mannequin leg.
So Jerry's mannequin leg is a reference to another mannequin leg owned by Dan Harmon, which he does some pretty unsettling things with. So then, after Conroy goes RoboCop on them, trying to confiscate the portal gun, Morty and Summer dangle briefly in Butt World and end up back in C-137, his original home reality, which got Cronenberged, again referencing Rick Potion number 9. Meanwhile, Rick is seeking one of the biggest things to come out of this episode: the McDonald's Szechuan dipping sauce, released in 1998 as a promotion for the Disney movie Mulan. Now, on Twitter, McDonald's seemed to imply that they're actually considering bringing it back. And another missable joke that I liked here: Rick drives past the storefront reading Schlongbird's Adult Arcade with a picture of a dick on the sign. Rick also revisits the memory of his discovery of interdimensional travel, revealed to him by a Rick who already invented it. But of course, this whole memory of Rick's wife Diane and her tragic death along with her daughter Beth is all a fabrication by Rick. And yeah, that makes sense because Beth couldn't have died as a girl. She grew up and married Jerry and had Summer and Morty. However, that's assuming that C-137 Beth is Rick's original Beth. So I'm wondering if this means that season 3 will explore timelines of Rick's life where Beth and therefore Morty never existed. We'll see. And when Rick tricks the Grompholites into uploading not his code for interdimensional travel, but a virus giving him control over the brainalyzer, he leaves the interrogator with this.
Okay, have fun in what's left of my brain. I'm gonna transfer to yours. Oh, there's not enough room for all my genius, so I'm leaving you with my fear of wicker furniture, my desire to play the trumpet, my tentative plans to purchase a hat, and 6 years of improv workshops. Comedy comes in threes.
So a few awesome things about this joke. For one, it's a reference to the classic rule of threes in improv comedy, something I do a lot of actually. Please come see my show. It's just things are just naturally funnier when there are 3 steps or beats to it. And Dan Harmon is kind of a master of this technique, by the way. Like on the show Community, in the background of episodes across 3 seasons, he set up an elaborate rule of threes Easter egg with Beetlejuice.
What's the blonde's name? Bitter Butter Beetlejuice?
Winifred must be real special. Don't you usually wear the stripy turquoise Beetlejuice numbers?
There's nothing in your playlist but Spooky Party, the Beetlejuice soundtrack, and NPR podcast.
And while it's ironic that Rick just gave 4 examples of what he's leaving the interrogator, that rule of threes still works perfectly with his fart joke, since this is the 3rd time this episode that this farting butt has appeared. Rick also sneaks in this subtle dick joke. When he zaps out of his mind, you can barely see the outline of his dick. And when he goes to the surface, I love that we get to hear Nathan Fillion do his Rick impression.
Another day, another dollar. My great insect creature or what?
And this episode actually is a pretty clever way of tracking which body Rick's mind is currently occupying. It's Rick's classic dribble of spit on the host body's chin. I also like how Rick knows the Grompholites are so stupid that he confesses his exact plan to them.
One thing still perplexes me. Why would Rick Sanchez turn himself in?
Well, I'm just a dumbass bug, but it's possible Rick knew he'd be interrogated at this facility where we not only keep our most wanted, but our most sensitive data. Anyone here with level 9 access could, I don't know, collapse the government. I'm just gonna go take a dump.
Meanwhile, jumping back to Morty and Summer, Cronenberg Jerry destroys the portal gun, which alerts the Council of Ricks to their location. And this freeze ray that the Ricks use is similar to the one Rick used in the first episode on Frank, the bully that Summer had a crush on. And he ended up shattering. So I don't know, hopefully no one bumps into these guys. And then the Rick Council agent says this.
We can't risk Citadel secrets falling into the Federation's hands. We'll dispatch SEAL Team Ricks immediately to break into the prison holding C-137.
Booyah.
And assassinate him.
Boo, nah.
So, SEAL Team Ricks is obviously a fun reference to SEAL Team 6. That's the team of Navy SEALs who are deployed on especially tough missions. Like, they're the guys who took out Osama bin Laden. And we get to see this team in action as they come to take out another wanted terrorist, Rick. And after our Rick zaps his mind into one of the SEAL Team Ricks members, D99, notice the spit dribble, I like this callback of his abandoned memory of improv classes.
Not only is my plan screwed up, I also forgot how to improvise.
And back in the Citadel, we see a bunch of new Ricks and Mortys, some of which we've seen before, like Fish Rick and Fish Morty, all from the season 1 finale, Close Encounters of the Rick Kind. You can also see Big Head Morty, character from the Pocket Mortys game. And there's a few new ones, like Wall Crawling Rick, Black Rick, and this amazing Morty Rick. And there's a quick shot of Dipper and Mabel Mortys, a reference to the animated series Gravity Falls on Disney XD. And that show's creator, Alex Hirsch, is friends with Justin Roiland on this show. They've actually voiced characters and referenced each other's shows in the past. But obviously the best of these new characters is Lawyer Morty, who's totally useless in Morty and Summer's trial before the Council of Ricks.
It's not fair, you have no rights, and he's not a lawyer. We just keep him here because he's fun. Look at him go.
Yeah. What? No, I don't want to see your Pog collection.
And while this is all happening, Rick zaps from D99 to the militia commander. Again, notice the dribble.
He's a spy, blow him up. I'm gonna go take a shit.
And then uses that clearance to teleport the whole Citadel into the middle of the Galactic Federation prison, destroying his 2 main enemies with 1 stone.
He just teleported into a Galactic Federal prison. I'm gonna go take a shit.
And by the way, in case you didn't notice, that I'm gonna take a shit line is another rule of threes for Rick. This is the 3rd time he said it. And lots of awesome things happened during this chaos that was a little easy to miss. First, there was this from idiot Lawyer Morty.
Order in the court!
Then there was this other Morty's eyes popping out as an alien prisoner pounces on him, and this other Rick gets his limbs ripped off. We also get more cameos from Cyclops Rick, along with Hammerhead Morty, who also appears in the Pocket Morty's game. He also lets out the same Morty scream sound effect from that game. And speaking of pocket Mortys, notice this line.
You guys play Rick Laser Scissors for the Morty.
So rock, paper, and scissors are the 3 Morty types in that game. Also, I like that all the council members stupidly go with scissors. Of course, Quantum Rick is being controlled by our Rick, thus the dribble, though he seems to only shock Rickominus Sanchez Minius. Like, I'm not sure why he didn't just shoot him like the others. Maybe he'll return in a future episode, we'll see. And while Rick tricks Morty into thinking that he was willing to shoot through Summer in the standoff, Morty losing it and shooting Rick reminded me of when he snapped and killed that shitty screenwriter in the Purge episode last season.
You like that? You want me to cut to 3 weeks earlier when you were alive?
And this angle through the bullet hole in Rick Force's head is pretty great. We actually saw similar shots in Deadpool and Shaun of the Dead. And with his path now cleared, Rick executes his plan.
Watch closely as Grandpa topples an empire by changing a 1 to a 0.
So Rick being able to cause a panic and collapse of the Federation financial system with just a small glitch in the code could be a reference to the Y2K glitch, back when everyone thought that the world was going to end because lines of computer code only had 2 spots for the year instead of 4. We lost millions. And I love how when their currency value drops to 0, the immediate reaction by the panicking Federation is to turn clothing into currency.
Give me your jacket! Give me those pants!
He who controls the pants controls the galaxy!
And after the aliens leave Earth, everyone comes home, Beth divorces Jerry, and Rick realigns the dead flies to return his lab. We get this epic speech from Rick.
Because that's what this is all about, Morty. That's my one-armed man.
Nuggets.
I want that Mulan McNugget sauce, Morty. That's my series arc,
the
Morty.
hell?
If it takes 9 seasons, 9 more seasons until I get that dipping Szechuan sauce.
Dad.
For 97 more years, Morty. I want that McNugget sauce, Morty.
Of course, this is all a recreation of Rick's speech at the end of the first episode.
Just you and me, Morty. The outside world is our enemy, Morty. We're the only friends we've got, Morty. Rick and Morty forever and forever 100 years. Rick and Morty some things. www. Rick and Morty Adventures. www.100timesrickandmorty.com.
Wow, Szechuan dipping sauce and 9 more seasons of Rick and Morty? Yes, please. And that brings us to this post-credit scene this episode, showing the resurrection of Bird Person after Tammy shot and killed him at the end of last season.
I am Phoenix Person.
Now, obviously, there are some parallels here to Phoenix from the X-Men. Also, I think Darth Vader, both of whom are previously good people whose dark sides have overtaken them, giving them even more power. And I think that's where Phoenix Person is headed in Season 3, as a villain controlled by Tammy and the Federation to search and destroy Rick. Okay, those are all the things that I noticed in the Season 3 premiere of Rick and Morty. So, New Rockstars has never really done breakdowns for a comedy or animated series before. Sometimes it can be a little tough to overanalyze comedy. But if you really like this video, let us know. And maybe we'll make more videos about Rick and Morty when the full season comes out. In the meantime, share this video around and keep the conversation going in the comments. New Rockstars, Rick and Morty, running around, 100 years, breakdowns, forever and ever. Let's do it. And of course, if you like this video, please hit like and subscribe to New Rockstars. We do in-depth coverage of all kinds of movies and shows that you might like. And if you really, really like us, you can contribute to us on Patreon. Thanks so much to all of our current patrons. You can hit me up on Twitter at EAVoss with any thoughts you have about Rick and Morty, or follow New Rockstars on Twitter at New Rockstars for updates on our videos. All right, thanks for watching. Bye.